All right, 1.5, use a problem-solving plan. Obviously, the first thing you have to do is read and understand the problem, identify what you know and what you want to find out. You make a plan on how you want to approach the problem, and then you carry out that plan. You should always check at the end of your word problems if your answer is reasonable. All right. We have temperature. I'm sure that you guys have seen the formula before for Celsius and Fahrenheit. It says one day, so we haven't been using any calculators yet. You shouldn't be using any calculators on any homework. If I see decimals, then it makes me think calculator. So we haven't been using calculators yet. So please make sure you're not using calculators. It says one day the temperature in Rome, Italy was 30 degrees Celsius. The temperature in Dallas, Texas was 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Which temperature was higher? Can you tell me anything about this problem? Like if we're reading and understanding it, what can you pick out? What can you identify about the problem? And what about the temperature? Anything specifically about the temperature? Rome is Celsius, that's right. And Texas is Fahrenheit. Can we compare Celsius and Fahrenheit, 2 different units? The question is, which one is going to be easier to substitute in? Is it going to be easier to substitute in for Celsius and solve for Fahrenheit, or is it going to be easier to substitute in Fahrenheit to solve for Celsius? Very good. Substituting in for Fahrenheit means that we just have to simplify this side and figure out what the Celsius is. If I substituted for Celsius, look at all the algebra you'd have to do. You got to get F by itself. A lot of stuff going on around F, so that was a good choice to pick Fahrenheit to substitute in for. We're going to do that 5 nights times, what is the Fahrenheit? It was 83 degrees. 83 minus 32. And then we just need to simplify, and this equals Celsius. We just need to think about some algebra and how to do my fractions. That's right. If I make 51 a fraction, then I just multiply straight across. I could look for any cross canceling that's going on here, and I would just multiply straight across. 5 times 1 is 5, and then 5 times 5 is 25. Divided by 9 equals Celsius. Is this a good final answer this way? Can you compare right now to say, it says which temperature is higher? Can you tell which temperature is higher right now? No. What do we need to do to take it a little bit further? So 9 goes into 25. Oh, 2. 18. 7 left. Good. It's smaller than the 9. And then 9 into 75 would be 8 or 72. So that's all I really need right there. I can stop because it's going to be 28 point something. 28 approximately. 28 degrees Celsius for Texas. Which temperature was higher? That would be Italy. It's all in the youth group. The next question just remind me of this question. Distance traveled. Distance formula is probably one of the most well-known formulas because I can do distance, I can do about rate, and I can do about the time. And so in the youth group that I do on Friday nights, last year we were talking about the speed of light and how fast things were happening. And we used the distance formula. Distance equals rate times time. And we figured out that it takes 0.13 seconds. That's like this. We actually had a stopwatch there on the laptop, and they actually had to try to make it to be 0.13. I mean, it's such a fast click that you can hardly get 0.13 on a stopwatch. It takes 0.13 seconds time to go around the Earth the speed of light. That fast. That's how fast the speed of light is to go around the Earth. That's pretty darn fast. We have the distance equals rate times time. One day, Paul ran at a rate of 0.15 or 0.15 of a mile per minute for 40 minutes. The next day, Paul and Jan ran together at a rate of 0.16 miles per minute for 50 minutes. How far did Paul run altogether? So if I look at my formula, where would 0.15 of a mile go per minute? What is that? Is that distance? Is that rate? Is that time? That's how fast the person's going, so that would be the rate. And then for 40 minutes, is that distance or time? That's time. So we have rate and time. So I'm going to start with that. Distance equals 0.15 miles per minute times 40 minutes. Multiply those together. So notice that minutes is in the denominator and minutes is in the numerator. If I made this a fraction, put it over 1, minutes would be in the numerator. Well, units can cancel the same way that numbers cancel. A minute in the denominator and minute in the numerator would cancel with each other. So minutes in the denominator cancels with minutes in the numerator. And then you just have to multiply 0.15 times 40. How would you do that mathematically? How would you do 0.15 times 40? Do you have any techniques for being able to figure that out fairly quickly? Times 10 times 4. Yep. That's good that you think that way. And then you just have to add them together. Are there any other ways that you think about doing that problem? 6 miles when he's by himself. And then it says Paul and Jen ran together at a rate 50 minutes. How far did Paul run all together? Distance equals 0.16 miles per minute times 50 minutes. All right, so again, we have minutes that cancel in the denominator and numerator, which leaves the unit we're looking for. We're looking for distance, and miles is about distance. Now I have 16 times 5, but 16 times 5, and then multiply it by 10. 16 times 5. Do it on the side of your paper if you have to. Did we answer the questions? What's the final question asking for? All together. So the total then would be what? 14 miles. All right, the next one is simple interest. We have interest equals the principal times rate times time. What do you think principal is? Most students don't know what principal is. What's principal? Principal is usually the rate that you're starting with, the money that you're starting with. A lot of times when you have bank loans, the interest rate is way higher than the principal. Once the interest and the principal start being even, and then once the principal is higher than the interest, that means you're actually paying right on what you have. But anytime that the interest is higher, that means that you're not paying even on your whatever it is you bought. Some credit cards have outrageous interest rates, which is why you are starting a small business in Albuquerque. You borrow $10,000 from the bank at a rate of 9%. For 5 years. Find the interest you will pay on this loan. So find the interest. We know we're looking for I. They gave us $10,000 at a rate of 9% for 5 years. Let's start with something you probably know. What's 9% going to go in for in the formula? 9% goes in for the rate, and 5 years goes in for the time. So what's $10,000 going to be? That's the money you're starting with. That's the principal. So we have interest equals 10,000 for principal times 9% for the rate times 5 years. That is true. I could change, what would the fraction be for 9%? Absolutely, 9 over 100. We could do that, 9 over 100. Or you could change it to a decimal. Which way do you guys want to go? Do you want to change 9% to a fraction or a decimal? Okay, so the class says they want to do a fraction. We'll do 10,000 times, Sean said 9% would be 9 over 100 times 5 years. How do we multiply 10,000 times 9 over 100? Turn that into a fraction. And then how easy is it to cancel numbers that are powers of 10? I can divide 100 into 10,000. What's going to be left when I do divide it in? Yep. Take off 2 zeros and you're left with 100. And then it's 900, just like Sean said it was going to be. We're going to work on this here. How do we express how we're thinking about things? Because you do really well about coming up with answers. So that's my job this year, is to try to help you get what's in your mind into words. And then 900 times 5 would be 9 times 5 with 2 zeros. And a store buys a baseball cap for $5 and sells it for $20. What is the profit? Profit equals income and expenses. Well, he made, what's that?
The expenses are $5.
There you go. He makes $20 and he bought it for $5, which would be an expense. So his profit would be $15. You are making a leather book cover. You need a rectangular piece of leather as shown. So here's the book on the inside. Here's the leather that it's sitting on. Find the cost of the piece of leather if it cost 25 cents per square inch. What would be the first thing that I'd have to do on this problem? With the numbers they've given you on the diagram, what math formula can we come up with so that we can figure out how much leather we have? How much leather do we have? So how can I figure out that, how much altogether I have? What's that called? What formula is that? That would be if I have a dog, a naughty dog, and I need to put a fence on my property.
That's area.
That's right. Perimeter is about going around the outside, and that would be area. So we know that area equals length times width. The area of this leather would be 18 times 11. I'm going to try Sean's little technique here. It would be 18 times 1 plus 18 times 10, right? I love that technique. I don't use it very often, but so 180 plus 18. Area you said was 198. 198 what? What would the units be? Very good. Inches squared, side times side. All right, so we know it's 198 square inches. Well, how do I figure out the cost of that leather now? 1 square inch would be 25 cents. 2 square inches would be 50 cents. 3 square inches would be 75 cents. How do I figure out 198 square inches? Multiply by a quarter. 198 times 0.25. You can try it, but you know what? You're absolutely right, because I could also multiply by a quarter, which would be 1/4, and you would be dividing by 4, wouldn't you? Yes. So I could have done 198 times 0.25, or I could have done 198 times 1/4. 1/4 is the exact same thing as a quarter. Good thinking, Sean. And 2 decimal places, so that would be $49.50. I like your thinking on that, Sean. That was good. I can see it's going to be a good year having somebody who thinks not like me. I always like to learn from students when they think differently like that. Try to broaden my horizons. A gardener determines the cost of planting daffodil bulbs to be $2.40 per square foot. How much will it cost to plant daffodil bulbs in a rectangular garden that is 12 feet long by 5 feet wide? So I have a 12 by rectangular garden that is 12 by 5. So the area of that garden would be what? 60. So I know that so far. And so 60 times 240? 240. So that would be $144, which is D. I gotta remember to wipe that out next time. $144.